This is Susie Lynette of Devar Shalom. We're coming to you from my living room instead of our normal place of meeting due to some scheduling difficulties and other events that are going on in so many lives. But I'm excited to share this message with you about the new year. I've titled it, "What New Year is it anyway?" Well, that seems like a silly question. After all, isn't it 2024? Well, the evening of December 31st was New Year's Eve, according to the common calendar that is used almost everywhere across the globe due to ancient successes of European influences and history. The coming year, this current year, is 2024. But why is December 31st New Year's Eve? And why is this year 2024? Most Americans are completely unaware of this and the reasons how we got here. Many of you know that the biblical year is 5784. So how in the world did we arrive at 2024? Well, it follows 2023, doesn't it? So what's the question? Well, it hasn't always been that way, not even in world history, let alone the Bible. So let's begin with a little bit of a lesson here. In 46 or 45 BCE, which correlates to BC, Julius Caesar established January 1st as New Year's Day when he introduced a brand new calendar, which was far more accurate than what had been used previously. The old calendar had only 340 days, divided among 10 months. That really didn't work very well if one wanted to correlate the lunar cycles with the solar cycles, or have years that are about the same astronomically, or the seasons landing in the correct months. Caesar named January after the Roman god of doors and gates, Janus. And he had two faces, one looking forward, one looking backward. Janus was also known as the god of the wind. Soon, the Roman pagans began marking December 31st as New Year's Eve with drunken orgies. You see, they believed that this would demonstrate the chaos and disorder in the universe before their gods established order. For some reason, orgies and drunkenness helped to establish the worship of these pagan deities. However, despite the Emperor Julius Caesar's decree, after all, he was the emperor, and he even named the calendar the Julian calendar after himself. But despite all of that, December 31st and November 1st did not remain the start of the new year very long. Roman-based Christianity spread, and their version of it became the official religion of the Roman Empire in 380. You see, Constantine established it, and then Theodosius, after him, made it the official religion. Pagan holidays were either incorporated into the new Christian calendar or they were cut off. In the case of January 1st, it was incorporated and became what was known as the Festival of the Circumcision. Yep, that's the truth. You see, if they were allowed to celebrate the birth of the Messiah on December 25th, on Saturnalia, then inclusively 8 days later, Circumcision Day would be January the 1st. Yep, 8 days, and that was quite painfully obvious to many believers. January 1st then became a very important day in early Roman-based Christianity, but not only as New Year's Day. You see, the festival of the circumcision came to symbolize much more. It meant and showed the triumphal rise and the reign of Christianity, and therefore the death of Judaism. It was supersessionism built into a new calendar. The church would now reign over the Jews as God's chosen people. By the Council of Nicaea, when it convened in 325, this interpretation was pretty standard, and it was ratified theologically at that council. In essence, replacement theology incorporated not only into church teaching, but everyday culture and the calendar. At that time, Pope Sylvester convinced Constantine to prohibit Jews from living in Jerusalem. You see, how are you going to say they were never there if they are still there? Even with that, though, not all of the Jews left. At the Council of Nicaea also, Sylvester put forth a whole bunch of other laws that were very anti-Semitic. He became a saint in the church for this and other things, and his saint's day is January 1st. That's why a lot of Israelis today call the secular New Year's Eve parties and orgies and New Year's Day Sylvester. See, in the biblical calendar, the beginning of a new day is at sundown. So instead of New Year's Eve, December 31st, it also is the start of January 1st, according to the biblical accounting of day. In the Europe of Middle Ages, the night of December 31st was reserved for synagogue and Hebrew book burnings, torture, and murder of Jews for sport. However, by this time, the Middle Ages, January 1st was no longer New Year's Day. Even Roman-based Christianity wanted to separate themselves from Caesar. So Christian Europe regarded March 25th, Annunciation Day, as the beginning of the year. This made sense to them because it was near the vernal equinox, the first day of spring, which was the new year for many of the European tribes that the church was trying to convert. The other interesting point of this is that it occasionally landed with the biblical New Year of the 1st of Nisan, the month in which Passover occurs, the month the Lord proclaimed would be the new year for the nation of Israel in Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. The one exception, beginning in the 11th century, or the 1000s, was England. On December 25th, 1066, William the Conqueror became King of England, and he ordered that January 1st should once again be the new year. He then showed that the celebration of pagan Saturnalia as the birth of the Messiah and the day on which he was coronated, his coronation, would then be, it's okay to celebrate the birth of Yeshua because after all, he himself was crowned on that day. The Messiah's circumcision, 8 days later, would also symbolize the supersession of the Normans over the earlier Saxon inhabitants of Britain. He, in other words, made the calendar of the Christian Norman England align not only with his personal biography, but also incorporating replacement theology doctrine. However, England's Catholic leadership eventually reordered English custom to fit that of the rest of Europe. March 25th again marked the new year, and there it remained for about 500 years or so. Then, in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII moved it back to January 1st, kind of like a yo-yo. Does anybody know what day this is? Like Caesar, the occasion for this move was a new calendar, the Gregorian one that he named for himself. It is the one used today. The problem with the Julian calendar, as most know, is that it was inaccurate and it caused Easter to creep too far back from the first day of spring at about a full day per century. That creep amounted to 14 days by the time Gregory became Pope. You see, Easter is calculated this way. It is always on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox, the first day of spring. In that manner, it has no relationship to any particular calendar, and certainly not the biblical one. The Pope based his new calendar on the day 1,257 years earlier, when that Council of Nicaea, previously discussed, convened on the vernal equinox, which that year was March 21st, 325. Otherwise, the equinox in 1582 would have been on March 11th, way off from where it should be, and way off from where the sun and the stars would have aligned for it. He kicked the calendar ahead 10 days, turning the day after October 4th, 1582, into October 15th, 1582, and January the 1st became the new year once more. However, once again, this was not the case in England or the colonies. The English refused to change because they believed they needed to refuse any orders from the Pope after the Reformation. The Gregorian calendar did not win adoption in England, and therefore not in the American colonies, until 1752. What a mess! Washington and Jefferson and Ben Franklin were all alive then when suddenly the calendar changed on them. In Ben Franklin's almanac of that time, he describes this. To get the math to work out, 1751 had only 282 days, from March 25th to December 31st. The year 1752 began on January 1st, but that had to be advanced 11 days to catch up with the Gregorian count, so 1752 had only 355 days. Wow, what a confusion. You go to bed one night and wake up in a whole different year, losing days, losing dates, changing months, all at once. No wonder parties on New Year's Eve became the rage in the colonies and Britain. What does this have to do with the Jews? Well, on New Year's Day, 1577, Pope Gregory issued a ruling and declared that all Roman Jews had to attend a Catholic conversion sermon given in Roman synagogues after Friday night services. The penalty for skipping out was death. Then, on New Year's Day of the next year, he also signed a law forcing Jews to pay for a house of conversion, whose purpose was to convert Jews to Catholicism. The forced conversions did not work out as well as the Pope had wished, so on New Year's Day in 1581, he ordered that all of the Roman Jewish communities' scrolls and books be confiscated. That caused violence. The Jews were forcefully overcome by a large Roman-based army. Today, most Jews are not aware of this history, and Christians have no idea how the calendar came to be the way it is today. Few Jews know the history, whether they live in Israel, America, or anywhere else. Very few non-Jews associate New Year's Eve and January 1st with Pope Sylvester or with the festival of the circumcision, or know that January 1st became the New Year's Day in the British North America, in the American colonies, only as recently as 1752. Indeed, the whole calendar is assumed to be secular, with no relationship to any church or religious or replacement theology movement. However, it is very clear that New Year's origins are very much related to church calendars, as well as to pagan, pre-Christian religious rituals. If New Year's Eve or New Year's Day really were just secular in origin, they would not be more than a couple hundred years old. In other words, not older than the notion of secularism, which didn't come into being until a couple hundred years ago. That contradicts the always thoughts about this. So, if you join in the parties of New Year's Eve, you can do it for a number of historical reasons. You can do it because of Julius Caesar and the gods turning chaos to cosmos. That's perfect for pagans. You can do it in memory of Pope Sylvester, which is just right for the anti-Semites. You can do it to commemorate William the Conqueror, perfect for Anglophiles and those that can't get enough of William and Kate or Harry and Meghan. You can do it to mark the advent of Pope Gregory's much improved calendar. That's awesome for math or science or astronomy buffs. Or you can do it to celebrate a day named for Yeshua's Brit Milah or circumcision. Or lastly, you can do it because, well, it's convenient and everyone's doing it. Even from a halachic perspective, which is the Jewish way of life, there may not be anything wrong with celebrating It's worth bearing in mind, however, that this time period between the 25th in December and the 1st of January has historically been a period of increased anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish activity, and persecution throughout Europe, second only to the week from Palm Sunday to Easter. So what does the Bible say about New Year's? Well, it has 4, actually. Let's talk about these. Nisan the 1st, the beginning of the month in which the Exodus and Passover occur. It marks the new year according to Exodus chapter 12, verse 2, where God says, this will be a new month for you, a new year for you. It will be a lunar calendar to get you away from the worship of the Egyptian sun god Ra. Or the 1st of Elul. That's the start of the season of Teshuvah, or repentance. It leads up to the 10 days of awe, beginning the 1st of Tishri, and the Feast of Trumpets, ending on Yom Kippur. However, Elul the 1st is the start of the year in terms of calculating the tithing of cattle and livestock. Then there's the one that most know, Tishri the 1st. In the scripture, it's called Yom HaTeruah, or the Day of Blowing, also known as the Feast of Trumpets. Commonly in today's world, it's known as Rosh Hashanah, head of the year. However, quite interestingly, it is never called that in the Bible. It is the date that is on which the annual year number is assigned, as it is presumed to be the anniversary of creation, for many biblical reasons too complicated and long to get into during this broadcast. At the time of this writing, right now, it is 5784, or as I like to say, it's later than you think. Then the last one is Shavat the 15th, or Tu B'Shavat, the date marked for the annual tithing of the harvest. Today, it's like a national Arbor Day in Israel, and it's often called the New Year for trees. What about the days of the week and the months of the year? Well, let's think about this. In Hebrew, Sunday, the first day of the week, is called Yom Rishon, which means first day. Yom Sheni, second day, we know as Monday, and so on and so forth. The days are numbered in order, with the only exception being the Sabbath, Shabbat, in Hebrew. All the other days only have numeric designation. In English, we know that's not quite so. Where did this come from? How did it originate? Sunday, Latin, Dies Solis, celebrates the sun god Ra, as well as Helios, Apollo, and others. Constantine ordered it to be the first day of the week and the new Sabbath, although the Lord never changed the Sabbath day. Monday, the Latin Luna Dies, Monday, Moon Day, in honor of the Syrian goddesses Selene, Luna, and more. In Old English, Mon means day of the moon. So Moon Day, Monday, Monday. Tuesday, Latin Dies Maris, for day of Mars. Tuya is the German god of war, and Tuya's day, matching Mars, as Mars is the god of war in Roman mythology. Tuya's day, Tuesday. Wednesday, the Latin Dies Mercuri, day of Mercury. This pagan deity was renamed Odin in Woden in Norse mythology. And Woden's day is his name. Woden's day becomes Wednesday. Thursday, the Latin is Dies Lavis, day of Jupiter in Roman mythology. Jupiter was renamed Thor. And Thor's day, Thor, the god of thunder, Thursday is named for him. Friday, Dies Veneris, day of Venus. The Greek goddess of love and fertility, Aphrodite, was renamed Venus by the Romans. According to mythology, also in Norse mythology, Freya, this same goddess, was Odin, or Woden's wife, the one for whom Wednesday is named, and is the mythical goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. Freya's day is Friday. Saturday, Latin is Dies Saturni, the day of Saturn. The pagan god of the harvest, and his son Zeus overthrew him in mythology. The names of the months also have pagan origins. Janus, the wind god for January, that we already discussed, looking forward and backward, doors and gates. March is Mars, the god of war. April for the fertility goddess Aphrodite. July is Julius Caesar, and August is named for Augustus Caesar. The months with numeric names are obviously not where they should be. September, which is named for 7, is our modern 9th month. October is named 8, but yet it is the 10th month. November should be 9, but it is 11. And December, from the same root as decimal and decade, is named the 10th month, but it is the 12th. So what day is it? Well, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for joining us as we learn more and more at the biblical and historical reasons for how we got to 2024 and how did we get so far off the calendar. How did we get here? Interesting study. Thank you for joining us. Please check out our website, www.devarshalom.org, DEVARSHALOM.org, or find us on our YouTube channel. Check us out, watch videos, listen to podcasts. Until next time, shalom. Thank you for watching.